welcome back to the Marley Bird YouTube channel and day 2 of the Turkey Trot Mystery Make-Along. In this video, we will be working on the instructions for day 2. You can find those in the link provided in the video description box right down there below. Remember to scroll all the way to the bottom of that blog post to find the link for today's instructions. This is a free mystery make-along. Or if you want to purchase the ad-free PDF, you can go ahead and do that and follow along with the day 2 part in that ad-free PDF. Okay, pretty simple stuff. By this point, you should have completed your day 1, so that way you can continue on with day 2. You can't move on unless you've completed day 1, so make sure we're all clear with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have so far. This is where we left off last time. As you remember that I was working the second piece of the 2 pieces you will be making, and so I do have some bound off stitches over here to the left as I'm looking at the right side. If you're working on piece number 1, you have bound off stitches over here to the right. Just so that we're all clear, we're not going to pay attention to those bound off stitches anymore until day 4. So don't fret about them. Don't even think about them. They're just kind of hanging out there, this little flap just hanging out there, okay? We are really only concerned with these stitches right here that are on our needles, or the stitches that will be on our needles for this section. That'll be clear here in a minute. The first thing we want to decide is, what are we going to do with this color A right here? And I'm going to give you a couple options. You can go ahead and keep this color A attached right here and just let it hang out for this whole day, and then we can come back to this ball of color A in day 3. And what that will do is make it so that you don't have an extra end to weave in, okay? What you would do for today's color A is grab your second ball of yarn and use that for today's instructions, okay? Does that make sense? Or you can cut this ball of yarn and use that for today's instructions and then rejoin it again tomorrow at this point. Either way really works. It's totally up to you what you want to do. It's whether you want to have an extra end to weave in or not. It doesn't matter either way. When I made the matching pair to this one, I left my yarn attached and then I came back on day 3 and then kept working with it. Both ways work just fine. So you choose what works best for you, okay? I'm going to go ahead and leave this attached. And so what I will do is I will end up joining a new ball of color A between these 2 markers. But before I do that, I need to isolate the stitches that are between these 2 markers, which means I need to put the stitches on the outside of these markers, essentially on a holder. But here's the cool bit, you guys. We have this circular needle here that we can use as a holder. So we don't have to get scrap yarn, we don't have to get stitch holders. We're going to maneuver our stitches so that way we have stitches on our circular needle and we're going to have the stitches held that way. All right, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so with the right side of your fabric facing you, you have all of your stitches on your left hand needle. Bring your right hand needle around and have it go tip to tip with your left hand needle, right? And we're going to slip these 12 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? So I've slipped those 12 stitches. You now remove your marker. So remove your marker, and this brings you to the center stitches. Now what's going to happen now is we're going to continue working just across these center stitches. So we want to bring in our double pointed needle at this point, or a spare set of circulars. I'm going to grab a spare set of circulars and I'm going to join color A at this point. All right, so I have the right side facing me, and with color A, I can actually just slip these down so that they're just on the cord so that that needle is completely out of the way. So I have my color A, I slip one with yarn and back, and then I knit over to the next marker. So I knit to the marker. Here's my marker. I'm going to remove the marker, and then I'm going to let those stitches just go to the cord. So what has happened now is I have active stitches on the second needle that I brought into play, and this could be a double point or circulars, totally up to you. And then I have all of these stitches here at the start and the end. So the 12 stitches that I started with, 12 stitches that I ended with, they are just resting on a second set of circulars, and they're just going to hang out there. It's acting as a stitch holder. Okay, so they're just going to hang out there. Now I'm going to continue on just working across these center stitches, and let's go ahead and learn what we have to do. We are going to continue working still with just our color A. And so we're on the wrong side. We'll slip one with yarn in front and just knit to the last stitch, and we'll purl one. We're just going to work in some garter stitch here for either 4 rows if you are working the small or the medium, or 6 rows total if you're making the large. Don't forget to purl that last stitch. I tend to forget. Anytime you're on the wrong side, we're going to purl that last stitch. So turn your work. So that would be 2 rows, right? So that was row 2. This would be row 3. Slip one, and I'm just knitting. This one I just knit all the way down. Turn my work. This will be row 4. Slip one with yarn in front. Bring my yarn back to the back and knit. So after this row, if you're making the small or the medium, you would move on to the next set of instructions. As you're knitting to that last stitch on row 4, make sure you purl it and then turn your work. If you are a size large, you have 2 more rows. Okay, so I've turned my work. I'm going to give you a little tip here. So I am working with these 2 needles, okay? These 2 needles right here, those are the ones that are holding those stitches, and they kind of just drag around a lot. So what I like to do, just so that they're kind of out of the way, is I just tuck them directly into my fabric that I've created. I'm just gonna pop it in and just pop them down through. So they're just kind of held tight and they just don't go anywhere. I know it looks funny, but they'll be out of the way completely here in just a couple minutes. So now I don't have to worry about them flopping around too much. You know what I mean? So they're just kind of tucked out of the way. I don't have to stress about those because I'm only working with these stitches here. Okay. So I've turned my work. It's at this point I'm going to drop my color A, and do not cut it. Do not cut your color A because we are going to use it in this section. We're going to pull it up. Okay. So don't cut it. What we are going to do is join with our color B. So those of you who are making the button one, you finally get to use color B. So grab your color B, make sure you leave a nice long tail so you can weave that in later. And we're going to follow along with the instructions. So this would be row 5. So we're going to slip one with yarn and back. You're going to knit the number of stitches indicated for the size you are making. Okay, so this number right here is different for each size. Once you've knit that number, grab a marker and place a marker there. Okay, now you knit 5, and this is for all the sizes. Grab a marker, and now you'll go ahead and knit to the end. What should happen here is you should have the same number of stitches before this first marker and the same number of stitches after the second marker. Then you have 5 stitches in between. Okay? This next row is where we're introducing a brand new stitch, and this stitch is called the star stitch. It essentially takes 2 rows to complete, but this first row is the prep for it. The second row really finishes it off. So really pay close attention to this, okay? Here we go. Okay, I've turned my work. I have the wrong side of my piece facing me. We're going to go ahead, knit to the marker. All right, so we start off with our slip one with yarn in front and then knit to the marker. Slip our marker. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to purl into each of these 5 stitches, but we're going to yarn over our needle twice as we purl. Let me show you. Bring your yarn forward, go into the stitch as if to purl, yarn over your needle once, hold it in place, yarn over your needle twice. You have 2 yarn overs over your right hand needle. Now you pull those 2 yarn overs through the stitch you went into and off. So it looks like you have double loops. Do that again. Go into the next stitch as if to purl, yarn over your needle once, hold it in place, yarn over your needle twice. Then let both of those yarn overs, pop them through the stitch just like you normally would if you were purling, and off. Into the needle as if to purl, yarn over your needle once, yarn over your needle twice, pull both of those yarn overs through that stitch and off. Into the purl, yarn over once, yarn over twice, pull both of those through the stitch and off. Go into the stitch as if to purl, yarn over once, yarn over twice, come out the stitch and off. It will look like now you have 10 loops on your needle between this marker and the marker you're going to slip right there. Okay? Now we go ahead, we knit to the last stitch, and then you will purl the very last stitch because you're on the wrong side, and that's what we do when we're on the wrong side. Okay? Last stitch, you purl. Okay? That's where we are. All right, so this next row is where we're going to kind of do a 2-step process in those 5 stitches that we did the double wrap purls. Okay, so pay close attention to this. Here we go. I'm going to turn my work. So now I have the right side facing me. Let me maneuver my needle. Turned my work, have the right side of the fabric facing me. I'm going to slip my first stitch, knit up to my marker. When I get to these stitches, I'm going to grab the first loop and pull it off of my needle and let the second loop fall off. I'm going to do that for each one of these, and that's going to give me 5 exaggerated long loops, okay? Elongated loops, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so I'm on the right side. We start off, yarn in back, slip one, knit to the marker, slip my marker. Okay? Here is my double looped purl, whatever you want to call it. I can go into each one as if to knit or as if to purl. I like as if to knit, so I'm going to go into the first one as if to knit, take it off of the needle, and then let that second loop fall off. See how it gives me that really long loop there? All right, so that's one. I'm going to do that again. Go into the first loop as if to knit, slip it off, and let the second loop fall off. So there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I have 5 long loops between my markers. All right, so that's the first step. Here's the second step to complete this stitch. You ready? You take your left-hand needle and you're going to stick it into the front leg of all 5 of those elongated loops. Okay? So I took my left-hand needle and I essentially just stuck it through all 5 of those loops into the front. So now it looks like my right-hand needle is in the back. Okay? I'm going to yarn over my right-hand needle and then pull that through all 5 of those loops. But I don't let them fall off. I keep them there. All right, so now I'm going to yarn over my right-hand needle. So I yarn over my right-hand needle, hold that yarn over, go back into the back leg of those stitches again. See, you go into the back leg of those stitches, yarn over your right hand needle and pull up a loop. See how you have 3 loops now? We're going to do that all again. Yarn over your right hand needle, hold that in place. Take your right hand needle, go into the back leg of all 5 of those loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and now you have 5 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many did we start off with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Now I can let these elongated loops fall off. And we get this. Okay? Slip your marker, knit to the end. How many of you are like, I got to rewind that. I got to watch all that again. Don't worry. You're going to do it again. You only do it a couple times, like 4 times. So it's not super bad. So don't stress it. You can do this. Just take it one little step at a time. Okay. So after you finish that, we're going to turn our work and go to the wrong side. So I turn my work. I'm now on the wrong side. I slip the first stitch with the yarn in front, knit to my marker, slip my marker, and then I purl all 5 of these stitches. Slip my marker, knit to the last stitch, and purl 1. That's what it looks like on the wrong side. Let's turn our work and see what it looks like on the right side. As you look at it from the right side, this is what it looks like. It's called a star stitch, okay? It looks sort of like a broomstick lace. It's a lot of fun to do. So don't stress it. You don't make a whole lot of these, but it's a fun little technique we're going to use for the day 2 instructions. Okay. So now we drop our color B, pull our color B out of the way. We're going to grab our color A and bring it up. Do be careful when you do that, that you don't pull that slip stitch too tight. Otherwise it will disappear. Okay. So we pull this up and essentially we're going to work in garter stitch for either 2 ridges or 3 ridges, depending on the size you're making. So what you will notice here is we're back to our color A. You slip one with yarn in back, and we will knit all the way across this row. Slip your marker as you come to them. Turn your work. You're on the wrong side, so slip one with yarn in front. Knit these stitches down to the last stitch where you will purl 1. Again, slip your markers as you come to them. I want to go ahead and finish this row A so I can show you that star stitch once again, because I know some of you are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta see that one more time. Don't worry, I'm gonna show you. I would never leave you hanging. And that's the beauty of YouTube, is that you can stop, rewind, pause, and watch me do it in slow motion. So that's really handy, right? All right, so I finished that row, so I'm gonna rotate my work. You'll notice that one thing I have learned when I was making these, you guys, is it was really handy to sit at a table or something to just keep my work real steady and keep it on the table as I'm rotating. It helps with yarn management. Just kind of a heads up there. So I'll slip this first one, and I'm on the right side, so I will just knit all the way down. Turn our work one more time, get to the wrong side, which will give me my 2 garter ridges for the size small and the medium. If you're making a size large, you have to do 1 more garter ridge, but it's pretty easy to do, not too difficult. Remember, when you're on the wrong side, you always want to purl that last stitch. Just keeps our edges nice and clean. Pretty simple stuff. And it's at the end of this row that we're going to drop our color A and go back to our color B. So rotate my work. Here's what I have. Let me show you guys. Okay, so this is where we started. Here's our color B with that nice little star right there in the center. And now we're going to do this whole section right here, this color B, we're going to do it again. So it's a repeat. Just as a side note, one of the things I've learned doing all of these mystery make-alongs is the more I can keep instructions repetitive on the each day's set of instructions, it's easier for you guys out there. So the great thing about day 2 is it's a repeat of this garter section and then the star stitch section and then the garter section and then the star stitch section. It's pretty darn easy. There's not a whole lot of stuff happening here, but I know that the star stitch is something new and it's something that you guys probably have never done before. So let's do it one more time. Now, remember, we drop our color A, we pick up our color B, and this first row really is sort of the setup, right? We don't do a whole lot here on the first row. It's really on the first wrong side row because that's when we do our double wrapped purls. So I'm going to go like this and then just knit all the way across with my color B. That's all we're doing here. Then I turn my work. I am on my wrong side row with my color B. So I'm going to slip the first one with yarn in front, and then I will knit to my marker. Slip my marker, and then over these 5 stitches, I want to do that double wrapped purl. So I'll go into the first stitch as if to purl, yarn over my needle once, yarn over my needle twice, and make sure you bring your yarn back to the front each time you do those. And then bring those 2 yarn overs through the stitch you went into and off. Go into the stitch as if to purl, yarn over the needle once, yarn over the needle twice. Bring your yarn back to the front. You can hold those 2 wraps, all right, so they don't go anywhere. Bring it through the stitch and off. Go into the stitch as if to purl, yarn over your needle once, yarn over your needle twice, bring it through the stitch and off. Just 2 more, yarn over once, yarn over twice, come through, into the stitch as if to purl, yarn over once, yarn over twice, bring your yarn forward and out. Slip your marker. Bring your yarn back to the back, knit to the last stitch, and because we're on the wrong side, what do? We purl that last stitch, which is a little loose because it was a slip stitch and we changed colors, but that's okay. Okay, you with me? You with me? You with me? Everybody with me? All right, so we have that double wrapped. It's on the next row that we work those elongated loops and create the 5 stitches into the 5 elongated loops. All right, so here we go. Take a deep breath. You can do this. I know you can. The right side is facing me. Slip one with yarn and back. Knit to your marker. Slip your marker. Go into the first loop of the double looped purl, right? The first one, as if to knit, and just pull it off. The second one, as if to knit, pull it off. 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 So we have 5 elongated loops. Now we're going to essentially knit those 5 loops together, but create 5 loops or 5 stitches at the same time. So take your left hand needle, go into the front leg of all 5 of those loops. This is what it should look like, okay? Now, we're going to knit these together. So yarn over your right hand needle just like you normally would knit, and then pull that through, all 5, just like you normally would. That's just a normal knit, right? But we need 5 loops over here, so we need to create 4 more. And we're going to do that by creating a yarn over. So we will take our yarn over our right hand needle. So that's 1. And now we can go back into these loops. So hold that yarn over in place and then take your right hand needle and go back into those loops just like you were before. So now I'm through the back leg, right? So I'm going into those loops through the back leg and I knit again. and pull it up. So now I have 3 loops on my right hand needle. So I need 2 more. So I yarn over my right hand needle, hold that yarn over, go back into the back leg of all 5 of those loops, yarn over, bring up a loop. So now I have all 5. So now I can let these 5 elongated loops come off of my left hand needle. They've been replaced by the 5 loops I just created through them. And that's what we have. Slip your marker and knit to the end. Now, I know some of you out there are probably not getting this on the first try, and that is totally okay. All right, it's totally all right. Take your time, each little step of the way, be deliberate about it, but I know you can do this. All right, I know you can do this. The following row is a wrong side row, so we're going to essentially knit the stitches on the outside of the markers, purl the stitches inside the markers. So let's go ahead and rotate our work. Wrong side row, slip one with yarn in front, knit to my marker, slip one, purl to the next marker, slip my marker, knit to 1 stitch before the end, and purl that last stitch. Turn my work. I'm looking at the right side. Looking good. So now I would drop my color B. Move my color B out of the way. I will go back and pick up my color A and essentially work that garter stitch section again. Okay? So far, so good, right? Believe it or not, you're halfway done with day 2, okay? So you're nearly complete with day 2. What I want you to do is go ahead and continue on working through these star stitch say that 3 times fast, star stitch sections, and then get to the last garter stitch section. And that's where we have to do a little bit of shaping. So get to where it's time to do the shaping, and I'll walk you through that part of the instructions. And welcome back. Maybe yours looks like mine if you're making the size medium. I have done the 4 star stitch sections that I was supposed to do for this size, and I've ended with my garter stitch section. And so I need to go ahead and move on to the shaping. So that's where we are. You can go ahead and cut your color B at this point. We're done with color B for today. So make sure you leave yourself a nice long tail so you can weave that in later. And at this point, your piece looks a little something like this, right? Like we have stitches on holders, we have this long weird thing that we have just worked up, and then we have this flap over here. If yours looks like this, you are right on track. All right. Here's the next goal. We have X number of stitches up here on our needles, and we want to get down to 7 stitches total. So we're going to do that by working a set series of decreases, all with our color A. So you do want to follow along with the instructions for the size you're making, because obviously each size has a different number of stitches, so that will require you a different number of decreases. For me, I'm doing a size medium, so I will be following those instructions. With the right side facing, we're going to slip one with yarn in back, and then we're going to knit 2 together through the back loop or the back leg. You see that? Knit 2 together through the back leg. Then you will knit 1, and now we will knit 2 together through the back leg. There's a marker right there though. So we're going to go ahead and remove that marker. I might have put in the instructions that we should remove the marker beforehand, but I don't remember. So I remove that marker, and I'm going to knit 2 together through the back leg at that point. Then I will knit 3. And now I will knit 2 together. So again, there's a marker in the way, so I'm just going to slip that stitch and move the marker. So that way I can knit 2 together just as normal. Then I will knit 1 and knit 2 together. Finish with a knit 1. Okay? Simple so far, right? Go ahead and turn your work. And on row 2, it's a wrong side row. So you will slip 1 with your yarn in front. And then you will go ahead and knit down to the last stitch and purl 1. So no shaping on this side. On the wrong side, we're just going to work these stitches in our garter stitch, but make sure you purl that last stitch. Okay, see that? All right. At this point, the size small now has 7 stitches, so you would put your work aside and be done for day 2. For the medium and large, you have a couple more decreases that we have to work. So for the medium and the large size, we are back to the right side, slip the first one with yarn and back, knit 2 together through the back loop or leg, and we do that twice. If you're making the medium, you will knit 1. If you're making the large, you will knit 3. Then I will do a knit 2 together twice. And finish with a knit 1. Turn my work. Slip the first one with the yarn in front and knit to the last stitch. Purl 1. If you're on the medium, you're down to 7 stitches now. You can stop. If you have a large, you have to do 2 more rows. So you're essentially going to do that last row that the medium just did. You're going to do that. So go ahead and follow your instructions for that. Nothing new there that you need to know. Once you have finished those, you can go ahead and cut your color A, leaving a nice long tail. And essentially, this is what your work looks like at this point. Here's your ball of yarn still attached to the day 1 work if you did that, or you have a tail over here. You have a flap either over here or over here, whatever piece you're making. You have this nice long piece right here. And I'm really curious what all of you are thinking. If you're like, what the heck is this? What are we making? Because it looks really peculiar right now. But I really think after tomorrow's work, you're going to know exactly what it is. It's going to make a lot more sense of what's happening. I don't know. That's my guess. As you're working on yours and you get yours to this point, do me a favor and snap a picture. All right, so snap a picture and share with me on social media. Use hashtag MarleyBird or hashtag MarleyMadeMeDoIt, MMMDI, or better yet, hashtag TurkeyTrot2021. All right, I bet you'll get some funny guesses on your Instagram post if you post this, or your story, or your Facebook post, or whatever it is. All right, guys, so that's the end of day 2. Not so bad, right? If you are cruising right along with this and you want to get started with the second one, remember you got to make 2 of these. You can go ahead and get started with the second one and save time, so that way you don't get a second project syndrome. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'll talk to you tomorrow for day 3 of the Turkey Trot 2021. Bye.